Welcome to Life Esteem, a program committed to delivering information that's important to you and your community.
Welcome to Life Esteem. Always great to have you as a viewer. Hey, today we're going to talk to Shirley Moore Smeal. She's Executive Deputy Secretary for the Pennsylvania Department of Corrections, and we're so glad to have her on the show. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Right.
I'm glad to be here.
Yes, indeed. Had a chance to sit with you and hear you speak just a week or so ago, I guess, at the wonderful Diversity Forum, and so I got a feel for, a lot of the work that you're doing, which is very important work. Tell us a little bit about what you do at the Department of Corrections.
Well, thank you. And the Pennsylvania Department of Corrections is a system that has approximately 51,000 inmates. We have almost 16,000 employees. And so we're really focusing on the overall goal is, of course, to enhance public safety and make sure that we operate safe, secure prisons, both for our staff and for our inmate population. But most recently, and within the last 5 years or so, under the direction of Secretary Wetzel, we have really focused on humanizing our system, making sure that we recognize the inmates who are in our care, custody, and control as individuals, as humans, and to provide for their needs as well as the needs of staff, making sure that they have the resources that they need in order to effectively do their jobs.
Now tell us a little bit about your background. You're now in this capacity, but if I remember correctly, you were at Muncie?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I have almost 30 years with the department, and started out in the system working as a clerk typist, worked up to various positions, unit manager, staff assistant, executive deputy secretary, which I am now, but I also was superintendent at SCI Muncie. And Muncie is one of our 2 female facilities. It's our diagnostic and classification facility, and it's where every female who enters our system goes through Muncie for classification and diagnostic purposes.
Which is the other female? I always know about Muncie, but which other facility do you have?
Cambridge Springs, which is up by Erie.
Okay, got to know about that one.
Yeah, I knew about that one, as well.
Yeah, so a lot of people have not a clue what corrections is really all about, and I like what you said about humanizing or, the whole system. When you think of corrections, you think of, punishment, period. That's it. They did something wrong, we lock them up, we punish them. But what really happens in terms of the system?
Well, and we really believe that, the individuals are sent there as punishment, not for punishment. And our goal is to make sure that they leave our system better, but at a minimum no worse than when they came in. So we really want to take a look at providing for them educational opportunities, the vocational opportunities, and not just vocations that will get them a certificate, but working in conjunction with labor and industry to find out what jobs are going to be available whenever they return to society. So we try and provide them all different types of vocational programs. For the GED rate, we have the highest GED rate compared to a higher rate compared to the community. So we're very proud of that, proud of our teachers and staff. We're working so diligently to make sure that those who come in, and they come in with on average a 7th or 8th grade education. So for us to be able to provide them opportunities to get GEDs and take that out, we're very proud of that.
Well, that goes to show that education is the key.
Yes.
It tends to be the more education you have, the better choices and decisions that you probably will make, in your life in that regard. Now, getting back to the 2 female facilities, Cambridge Springs and Muncie, have you observed or noticed over the last 10, 15 years a more increase of women being incarcerated, or is it staying around the same? What's the status in regard to women?
There has been a slight increase in women, and we have actually built a new housing unit at our Cambridge Springs facility, but it's not a very drastic increase. And we're really working a lot to divert people so that Secretary Wetzel says the best form of reentry is no entry, and so we really want to make sure that the services are available in the community for them. And if they do come into the system, we start reentry services from the day they arrive. So we want to see what do you need in order to be released at your earliest possible time on your minimum date. So that's what we do. We have a number of inmates, about a third of our population come in with less than 12 months to serve. And so we have to really be diligent about providing services for them at every opportunity that we can. So we are seeing them, they're able to get out, and they're hopefully able to stay out and have a successful return to the community.
I was always confused. I know that you have educational opportunities within the prison systems, in most cases, I guess. are the inmates required to take, advantage of those? So, for example, almost 95% of all the barbers that I've had in the past, I know it look like I needed one now, but all the barbers had, these guys all were trained within inside the system, almost all of them, and I was like, wow, okay. So do they have to take advantage of the education opportunities, or can they just go in and say, no, I'm just going to do my time?
They have to take advantage of being in school, working towards their GED.
Okay.
That's mandatory.
All right.
There are programs that they are recommended to take for the parole board in order to provide for them and actually to just make them a better individual all the way around. So they have the choice to take those programs or not take those programs, and that will of course be viewed by the parole board. The vocational programs is not mandatory for them to take, but for the most part we have waiting lists for those vocational programs.
Okay.
People want to get into them. They're certified nationally, a lot of them, so they can leave with something very tangible, something very noticeable that's going to help get them employment once they are released. And speaking of that, and working with employers to provide jobs, and Cambridge Springs has our optical lab. Very proud of the work that they're doing up there, and to the point where we now have employers who are calling the institution looking for individuals who have been trained by our correctional industries there. And that just goes to show you the quality of the individuals that are going back to the community and are being successful at it.
Optical lab, you mean they make glasses and stuff like that?
Yes, they do.
Get out of here. Okay.
I had no
didn't know
idea
that. Yeah,
that
me
that would
either.
happen. I know some many years back, Nate and I would go in to Camp Hill Prison through the Pennsylvania Prison Society and do parent training. And interestingly enough, there were a number of men there that did register and enroll, and it wasn't by court order. In most instances, it was something that they were eligible to volunteer to participate in. And it was a 12 or 14-week sessions.
Yeah, at least that. And,
Yeah, I know, at least 12-week sessions.
And they would come,
And
that
they
was
would
great.
come,
Yeah.
and a number of instances, they would even say to us, this is unfortunate, they don't have something like this on the outside that we could have been more better exposed to and really have some better understanding of how to better communicate, interact, and, work with our children in different capacities. But
I
they
will
did
say-
appreciate that.
I will say, though, that oftentimes when I hear guys say that, say,
Yeah.
yes, there were opportunities for you. You didn't take advantage of them.
Yeah.
But when they're stuck in a situation like that, all of a sudden they kind of wake up, and I
Sure.
thought, okay.
And you have to recognize as well that of the 50,000 inmates that we have in custody, that represents 81,000 children.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
And that's children that they have, but it doesn't take into account the nieces and nephews
Nephews.
and neighborhood children that are impacted by the actions of those who
That's
come to
right.
our system. So that's significant. So,
Yes, it is.
we have provided the Fatherhood Initiative in all of our prisons now.
okay.
Just again, looking at the whole individual and what does that person
Yes.
need in order to be successful. And of course, in our female facilities, we do have parenting programs that are run
Okay.
there. At Muncie, we have Project Impact, where the children can come and spend time with their mothers in an environment that is conducive to children and age appropriate for children. So, we're really
did-
focused on that.
Yeah, we did something like that through the former Hemlock Girl Scout Council, had a program called Project Men, Mothers Empowered to Nurture Their Daughters. And we went into the Dauphin County prison and into the Female Work Release Center. And really help the mothers understand the value of girls being involved in Girl Scouting because of some Department of Justice research that indicated that young women that seemed to have that exposure weren't being seen coming into making choices and decisions that would get them, in those type of scenarios. And that was across the country, and councils were able to participate or be a part of those type of initiatives. And the mothers really appreciated it. They really thought it was a way, and especially at Dauphin County Prison, because they don't have contact visits.
Right.
This was the only opportunity that they had access to their child through that contact, was participating in that program, which was pretty unique back probably 15 years ago?
Yeah, like
At
that.
least, yeah. So we
But that's
did
the
that.
part of the story that people never hear about.
Yeah.
They don't know about these kind of programs and
Sure.
stuff. So what can businesses do a better job at in terms of supporting the returning, we call them returning citizens, of course, so they go into the prison experience, they come out, a lot of them are all saying, we can't get a job,
Right.
And so it gets crazy. So what can, private industry, the public sector do better?
I believe that they can first be willing to look at them as individuals. And, you know, we've all made mistakes. Everybody has made mistakes. But for most of us, you know, we've been able to have a second opportunity, or somebody gave us a second chance, or we, you know, have been forgiven, and we need to in turn exemplify that same behavior towards those who are coming out. I think a lot of it really has to do with education, and we are working very diligently to educate employers on the benefits of hiring a returning citizen, or a reentrant is what we refer to them as. But, you know, a lot of it is education, and a lot of it is you know, when they are inside, they are required to work. So, you know, talk about a work ethic and developing what it means to get up and work and be committed to doing that. Those are just, you know, soft skills that we teach them whenever they're inside. And the employers need to be aware of that. We do have a number of employers who are willing and accepting of the individuals who come out, who are willing to give individuals a chance. But needless to say, we need more employers who are willing to take a look and take a, you know, take a chance on someone who has provided that they, you know, they've paid their debt to society, you know, and now they need to come out and be successful. And if they're successful, then that benefits us all.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. Because if they don't hire them, then I'm just kind of generalizing here, isn't it more likely then that they will recommit a crime and probably end up back in the system? Because what are the options, you know?
Right.
And that's kind of crazy. So, yeah, I often wonder why it was such a difficult thing for an employer to do. I understand, you know, you don't want to just hire any old body, right? But at the same time, you got to give people a chance.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we're finding, and we even provide training to the workforce development. We have OWDS, and provide training and information to the employers and try and help them understand what services it is that we provide on the inside, and how that can relate to, you know, opportunities on the outside as well.
Sure, good stuff, good stuff.
As a young lady, you said you started off as a secretary. Okay. Was it any particular reason you ended up at the Department of Corrections, or that's what the civil service list made available at that time? I'm just curious how you ended up there.
Well, quite honestly, I needed a job. I had gone to, I was in the United States Air Force and came out from the Air Force and went back to school and was done with school and was working. And, you know, I needed employment. And the facility that I started at, SCI Huntington, was only located 12 miles from my home, but I didn't know where it was. To tell you how closed the system is compared to today, where we pride ourselves on being transparent. But, you know, it was an opportunity, submitted my application, but I quickly learned that it was a place that I wanted to make a career. It was more than a job for me. And so I've been, as I said, there almost 30 years now.
Isn't that something?
That's amazing.
There was a gentleman, I'm trying to call his name, it'll hit me in a minute, but his book was called Convicted in the Womb.
Oh, Charles Upchurch. Carl Upchurch.
Carl Upchurch. And I think he was in Huntington when he had his epiphany, if you will. He writes about it very vividly. But I remember Bill Love. Is that name? So I figured you would know Bill Love. He was what do you call him, warden? He was the warden at the head of...
Right. He was, came up through the system, deputy superintendent, was deputy secretary at our central office as well. So, yeah, I know Bill very well.
Yes, he did. Well. I think he was at Huntington at one time, too.
Yes, he was superintendent at Huntington.
And he was superintendent there.
That's right. And this gentleman writes the book and how he, you know, this and that, and it kind of drew me in. Tremendous story, but that's my point. There are so many tremendous stories within inside these walls. We know they've committed crimes and, you know, they've done things and that stuff. But what do you find in terms, because you mentioned the word humanizing the system.
Yes.
What do you find works best for, because I'm a proponent of alternative sentencing. I don't think everybody should be locked up, first off, especially for some of the pettier crimes. But as you've been in this system now for some 30 years, seeing people, men and women, come and go, and unfortunately that's another part of my question. Generational. I mean, there are some families that have almost everybody in the family has been incarcerated at some time or another.
Yes.
So how do we stop that? I'm not sure, but anyhow, what do you see that works best for people other than education, which we know that's for sure? What else turns them around and gets them to find their humanity again?
I think what turns them around is basically someone to show that they believe in that individual, someone to show that they care, someone to show that they have potential to do something different, that they can make different choices, that they can make better choices. Having a mentor, is one of the key factors in reducing recidivism and helping someone not return to prison. So I think that's part of it. We need to recognize that, you know, these people who are there are, you know, somebody's mother, father, sister, brother, niece, nephew. So they're people. And, you know, the 16,000 employees that we have, some of them have at least know of individuals who are incarcerated. So it's, again, to our benefit to make sure that we recognize them as humans. They're coming out one day.
Yes,
now, the majority of the individuals that we have locked up are coming out. And don't we want them to come out better? You know, they're coming to your community.
That's right.
They're coming to my community.
Oh, yeah.
And certainly want to make sure that they have the services and the programs that they need whenever they get out. They also need support whenever they get into the community.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that we've done as well, is just provide reentry services to include housing. Housing is major for individuals.
Yes.
So we have a housing lot that will actually help individuals to secure housing, help with the financing, the payment of the rent and all of that. So we have that, and we have the sex offender treatment on the outside. We have workforce development in the community as well. And I think the other thing is that we really need to recognize that we are in this together. It's not a silo.
That's right.
So, you know, what the Department of Human Services does, or Department of Education, and Department of Health, it's all impactful to what the Department of Corrections does. And so we need to make sure that we're working together. And I believe the reentry services, along with other services that are available, help us to do that. And I believe everyone is at the table because they realize the importance of making sure that our offenders come out better.
Absolutely, absolutely. I look at groups like,
Cressy.
well, actually that's a good group too, but I was thinking of Juanita Grant and her organization. What is it called? I forget.
I know the
It'll
name
hit me in a
of it.
minute.
It will,
But anyhow, Juanita Grant is a tremendous
Cram.
Yeah, she does a lot of good work in the Harrisburg area. And then, of course, we have Miracle for Sure with Marsha Banks and
very
that kind
familiar.
of thing. So we know about those organizations. They do great work and everything. But, you know, I often wonder whether or not the rest of the community is connected. We have a very good, successful ex-offenders coalition, you know.
Yes.
But I know that men come in, women come in all the time saying that they're struggling to find jobs that will sustain them, not just a job that, you know, give them a little bit of money. And also people, like you said, that will believe in them. I see the churches going into the prisons quite a bit, but even that's not that easy. You know, they have to really get clearances and all that. Mentoring, I think, is a great idea. So how do we get more people to mentor? Are there different avenues that we could use to, or different ways to encourage people to become more mentors for people?
And again, I think part of that is just getting the word out that that's a service that we contract for, and to explain how we do that. Our first time was approximately 3 years ago. We're getting ready to rebid those services now, so anyone that's interested in mentoring, you know, can call the Department of Corrections and let us know that. We'll let you know information about the bids and when they're going to be on the street.
Oh, wow.
So that's one thing that we do.
Thank you.
The other thing, in addition to mentoring, a service that we offer is family reunification.
Yes.
Because we know that, you know, the families are an intricate part. The support that they provide is going to make a difference in whether or not someone recidivates. So again, we want to make sure that it's a holistic approach to wellness, and making sure that the families are reunited and the families are strengthened by you know, their interaction. So a lot of preparation that goes into that.
You know, it's interesting you brought that up, the family reunification, because one of the things we do to Dauphin County Drug and Alcohols is offer 2 family programs. And one of those is called Celebrating Families. And the whole idea is to do just that, is reintegrate that family, because in a lot of instances, drugs and alcohol, substance abuse and use has really taken its impact on the family as a whole, not just the individual.
Right.
And we make that available for that whole family to be able to have access and be involved in a 16-week program, and to understand the disease of addiction itself, and then how they need to move forward holistic in regard to the 4 areas that are probably impacted or affected, each and every one of them, starting at 3 years of age.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's powerful to really get a sense and feel for that, because I know my husband shared an incident with a woman who's coming to the program and just mentioned the fact that her husband is just a alcoholic. And in that way, and just abusive, just not physically, but emotionally, mentally in ways.
You see the kids act out.
As a result of that, it just really kind of tears at your heart is that when you made mention of it, I mean, he needs to be there.
Right.
Yeah.
And, a young lady
Yeah.
shared with her mother that individuals don't go to prison. Families do.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And that's
Wow.
exactly right. So it's impactful. It just by the
Absolutely.
sheer absence of a family member, that makes
That's
a
right.
difference.
Yes,
So
it
we
does.
need to
Yes, it
rebuild the
does.
families.
The whole
Yeah.
family, yeah.
And
the
I
whole unit.
believe that that's also part of breaking the cycle, breaking the generational
Sure.
cycle, is to really recognize and show individuals at the earliest point that there are differences. And that's why you may have seen Secretary Wetzel and others doing the promotion and
Yes.
celebrating the expansion of pre-K because we
yes.
know that there's a direct impact
Yeah.
on individuals who do not complete high school and drop out. I believe they have a 70% chance in a lifetime
Yeah.
of being in contact with criminal justice system.
That's right.
some level.
In
Yeah.
fact, United Way of the Capital Region, the organization I work for, has embarked on bringing together a coalition of people, and we've had a little bit of everybody there, superintendents, chief of police, it goes on down the line. And we started with pre-K up to third grade, thinking those are the critical years in which we can help mold, the minds and the families to lead towards that graduation and the elimination of that pipeline
Yes.
from high school to prison. It's so much that we have to do, and we just have to keep doing it. But I agree with what you said, that we have to do it together. We can't be in silos. We
That's
have to make sure that
right.
everybody's
That's
at the table. So, one of the things I heard someone say years ago over at Camp Hill Prison, they said, it's the youth that you really don't want to see coming to prison. They are much more angrier. They're much more aggressive towards staff, the whole 9 yards. Is that true? Do you find that generally, as you look around the prisons of Pennsylvania, that when young people come in at the age of 17, 18, 19, that they represent the most dangerous population?
Well, I believe that they represent different challenges.
Okay.
Our young adult offender facility is SCI Pine Grove,
Oh, okay.
and we have programs there that are designed specifically for the young adult offender. But they're a population that is not fully grown, if you will. So they're
Yeah.
going through a lot of different things, psychologically, emotionally.
Yeah.
So there are different needs that they have,
Yeah.
and the attitudes, the anger problems, yes, that's definitely there.
Yeah.
So we try and teach them how to constructively deal with
Deal
that,
with
how to channel that energy in a positive way. But they're young adults.
Yeah.
They're in a strange environment, an environment that they're not used to. Going from their mother and father's house to an institution, is not the best thing to happen. It shouldn't happen, but we do prepare for the challenges in providing programming and curriculum that's designed specifically for the young adult offenders. And the same way with
Right.
Muncie. Muncie has a young adult offender unit as well for the
Well,
females.
I'm going to ask you about that. So they do not try to get them with the main population. They do try to keep them separated.
Yes, they
Okay,
do.
They do. Okay, I was concerned because a lot of times, you hear TV and stuff. Okay, and they have this, these episodes, and these young adults are in with these. I hate to say seasoned, but more mature. Okay, other adults, and they tend to not be successful in regard to how to handle themselves and how to interact. So it's nice to know there's a separate unit
Yes.
that
Oh,
they
yeah.
are involved with. Yeah, definitely.
Notice converse to that is the person has been incarcerated for a long time. And now they've, society's passing them by in a lot of different ways, And so the elderly, they're more, mature, whatever, to get out. Are they prepared? How do we prepare them to come back into society? Not just in society, but when they're in the prison there, how do we begin to mold them or get them ready? Because I've heard of guys spending, 30 and 40 years and then to come out. It's like, really? We didn't even have cell phones.
That's right.
You still wearing leisure suits back then. And then you come out here and it's like, what? Okay. But how's that done?
Well, and we have, as part of our reentry services, we have put transitional housing units in every region that we have, East,
Right.
West, and Central, and some have 2 or 3. And in those units, the transitional housing units, we try and provide them with a recap of what it's going to be like and give them the services that they need whenever they reenter. Technology is one of the more
Big
recent
ones,
ones that we're doing. We know most of the applications, even for jobs, are filled out on a computer. How do you navigate through that? And so that's part of what we're doing. The transitional housing unit is really designed to prepare the individuals for that release. We also have juvenile lifers, and we know that juvenile lifers have been in 30, 40 years, and they're another population with the potential to come out. So how do we prepare them?
Wow.
And recognizing that, you know, the transitional housing units and designating specific ones for juvenile lifers so we can focus on their specific needs, focus on the anxiety that they have. But in general, I think we need to look at what are the needs of the individual and provide an individualized treatment plan, individualized reentry plan
Yes.
for them to be able to return.
So, Capitol Pavilion, is that considered one of those transitional housing units? Is that what you're speaking of?
That's a federal. That's not
That's more
state.
federal?
Yeah.
Capitol Pavilion?
Capitol Pavilion is one of our contracted
Yeah, I
facilities.
thought so,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
okay.
the transitional housing units are actually units that are inside of our correctional facilities.
Oh, the inside of facilities.
They're
okay.
inside of facilities.
Oh, I got you.
okay.
So,
All
like
right.
the work release center might be considered one, no?
No.
No,
No,
okay.
they're units, and these are units that are for individuals before they are released into the community or into community corrections. And we actually recognize and have changed our policy so that people who have left our system, been successful, can now come back and return to that group of people who are getting ready to be released and let them know what are they going to face, what are the challenges, what are the pitfalls, what can they do to help increase their chances of success, along with workforce development and having labor and industry come in and talk with them about jobs and different things. So that's what the transitional housing units are there for
very good.
inside, but it prepares the individuals to come out to the community.
Okay. Now, what is the youngest? I know that some people, you know, they're 13, 14, 15, they commit a crime and they can be tried as an adult. Do they actually go to an adult facility if they are tried and found, you know, guilty of that adult offense, but they're only like 13 or 14? What happens to that young person?
Well, and they have, I believe the youngest that we've had in our system was 14.
Wow.
So they can, and if they are adjudicated adult and are sentenced, then yes, they would come to
Is that right?
either our facility, and there are some other states that have programs designed for them. So I know a couple of individuals who were found guilty, adjudicated adult, were able to go to a facility out of state until they became of a better age and more appropriate age for our system, and then were
Okay.
returned.
Wow.
That's
Big
tough,
job,
though.
big job. Yes,
Yeah,
indeed.
that's true.
You know, I often heard about various prisons, and I'm thinking of, what's the one down near Philadelphia? Everyone always talks about it.
Graterford.
Graterford.
That's
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
Anytime I hear about Graterford, it's like, oh man, that's a terrible prison. You don't want to go there. And so what makes one prison different from another? Like Graterford has a reputation of being really hard. You know, you have some of the most hardened criminals. Is it just a myth, or is it really true that there are certain prisons that are a little bit more, you know, aggressive than others? Uh-oh, we're down to 1 minute. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, and basically, I believe it comes down to leadership.
Okay.
And leaders set the tone for how the prisons are going to operate.
Okay.
So that's the key.
That's the key to that.
That's the key, yes.
Well, listen, I want to thank Shirley Moore Smeal. She's Executive Deputy Secretary for the Pennsylvania Department of Corrections. Huge job. We're so glad that you're on the job. Thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
being here.
Thank you.
And we know that we will have our you know, family returning to community. We have to prepare them. We have to be there for them. And it's up to us, folks, to make sure that it happens the right way. It's not just their job, it's all of our jobs. I want to thank you so much for watching Life Esteem, and see you next time here on Life Esteem. Goodbye. Great job. Went fast, though.
Good, fast.
Some more questions.
I know.